Welcome back, Truth Seeker. Want to say thank you to everyone who watched yesterday's live stream, who hit the like, who shared the video. It became the most successful video in the history of this YouTube channel, which is about 3 years old. For people who are new here, the views, though, weren't that great compared to what I got nearly a decade ago, where I got more views than what I got yesterday on almost every video I put out. Again, my channel has been deleted 20 sometimes. I've been severely shadow banned. Yesterday's views go to show that there are a lot of people in this world who were impacted by yesterday's story and clearly care about Charlie Kirk and want to know more about what's going on. I know a lot of people who watch YouTube realize you don't get the truth hardly at all in the media. And of course, a lot of things about yesterday's story just really don't make any sense in this age of police and surveillance everywhere. The shooter got away. I mean, it's hard to imagine. It's hard to imagine. It took them nearly a full day to find the rifle. That's hard to believe, too. If you missed yesterday's work, that video is definitely worth watching. What I want to talk about in today's video is some additional information about what happened to Charlie Kirk reportedly yesterday and the school shooting in Colorado in Jefferson County that followed not long after. And again, it was a date we had circled from the beginning of the year for tragedy. And I wish that wasn't the case, but there's something we've been exposing for nearly a decade about certain dates in the calendar and why they are so prone to tragic stories like what happened to Charlie Kirk. So, of course, I'm sure you know what happened to Charlie Kirk. We covered this in great detail yesterday. You might not have heard, though, that right after that, there was a shooting in Colorado, and it was a school shooting. And, of course, you think Colorado, you think school shootings, you probably think Columbine. Yours truly, somebody who graduated from high school in 2001, just weeks before 9/11 happened. I was a junior in high school, if I remember correctly, 1999, when the Columbine shooting happened. It was a story that had a major impact. How it worked for us. I was going to high school in Washington State, good distance from Columbine, Colorado. But we had a pep assembly the very next day. Our high school had a pep assembly the very next day, and it was to talk about the shooting in Colorado. And our principal announced there was a new policy at our campus to keep us safe from something like that happening where we were at. And from now on, we would all have to wear name badges to keep us safe. And to me, it seemed pretty silly. A lot of us knew each other's names. We had security. We had a police on campus even back then. And yeah, I still remember the days after the new policy. I'd have the hall security going, "Hubbard, where's your name badge at?" And I'd kind of like laugh back at him, like, "You just called me by my name. I mean, do I really need a name badge? Is that if a crazy shooter comes in here, is the name badge going to protect me?" Anyway, the point was these stories, they do have an impact. They change rules. They change laws. And that's really what it's about. And you see, as the decades have carried on, it really is about having a psychological impact on the people. And you see how at this day and age, now all the way in 2025, there's a lot of people who are a lot more willing to give up rights and liberties in the name of safety. And of course, one of the founders, Benjamin Franklin, he said, "Those who sacrifice liberty for safety deserve neither." So, real quick about Charlie Kirk. Again, if you missed it, real quick recap. There's something known as the kill date in numerology circles. And that's because there's this code behind the English language based on the alphabetic order forwards and backwards, and both ways with numerology applied, where the word kill equates to 64, 44, and 28. And there's one day every month that will come up that will have numerology pass of 64, 44, and 28, which this month was the 10th of September. Next month, it will be November 8th. The following, or excuse me, I'm skipping a month, aren't I? Next month, it'll be October 9th. Then it'll be November 8th. Then it will be December 7th. Okay, those will be the kill dates in the following month. But again, yesterday could also be written 10/9, and it's the same thing next month for October 9th. They can also be written 10/9. In the system, shooting equates to 44 and 109. There's only one day of the week that equals 44, and that's Wednesday. So you had a 44 date numerology plus a Wednesday, and something similar just happened with the Minneapolis school shooting, and Minneapolis is on the 44th parallel north, but shooting in Wednesday with this 44 connection. Charlie Kirk had just been asked a question about mass shooters when this happened, mass shooter 44. Charlie Kirk and the Turning Point USA get a lot of credit for the result of the election, which was November 5th of last year, 44 weeks and a day earlier. Keep in mind, the election was called for Charlie Kirk on November 6th, which would have been exactly, or excuse me, not for Kirk, but for Donald Trump, which would have been exactly 44 weeks earlier. His full name, Charles James Kirk, also has the 64, which is one of the values of kill, and going with the date numerology. He was shot in the throat. Throat equals 28, like manhunt, like kill, which was also one of the date numerology paths. And think about it, the throat, where we project our voice from. Charlie Kirk was a voice. He was someone who used his voice, if you will, as a weapon. Even though the voice isn't really a weapon, but again, he spoke for what he believed in, and his message was to go to young people and debate his political viewpoint. So think about the symbolism of him being shot in the throat and then a manhunt ensuing. Again, throat and manhunt 28. We've seen the same thing on the kill dates where after the shooting, there's a manhunt, and it's led into September 11th, which we're going to talk about. But yes, another very important point, Donald Trump, the beneficiary of Charlie Kirk's movement. So they say it was 88 days after Trump's birthday. We've called Trump Mr. 88 since 2015 when he announced his candidacy. He's done so many 88 rituals, it's ridiculous. Trump 88, like the Republican Party, like Turning Point USA. Also, I know the Latter-day Saints don't like to be called Mormon anymore. They say it's a derogatory name. When I was growing up, they didn't mind being called Mormon, and I didn't realize that it was a bad thing. But of course, Utah is associated with the Mormons. Mormon 88. This is interesting because the founder of Mormonism, or the Latter-day Saints, was Joseph Smith, who was executed and shot in 1844. And where was Joseph Smith executed? In Illinois, which is also Charlie Kirk's hometown. And there's a lot more to this. But again, I want to at least cover this much. And recapping yesterday. And if you do go to my website, Gematria Effect News, I did add quite a bit to this post. There is even more, but I'm short on time. You guys only got 19 minutes until I got to wrap this up, and I want to get through a number of things. So anyway, on the back of the Charlie Kirk killing, you get a school shooting in Colorado. It's going to subliminally trigger Columbine. And take a look at this. Take a look at this, this school shooting here, the Evergreen High School shooting, right? So I'm going to scroll down here. I want you to see the coordinates. Well, first of all, this school was established in 44. I mean, that's pretty interesting in itself. This is also on the 44 date numerology, a Wednesday after what happened to Charlie Kirk. But did you see how the coordinates are the 39th parallel in the 105th meridian? Charlie Kirk 105, Masonry 105. Again, Masonry is so important to this. Freemasonry is based in Kabbalah. Kabbalah is where this practice of letters and numbers comes from that's known as Gematria. Our federal city is the Masonic city. Donald Trump, the apprentice. The first degree of Freemasonry is the honored apprentice. For the record, the phrase Masonic ritual also equals 88 in light of this happening 88 days after Trump's birthday. But just think about that. On the back of the Charlie Kirk news, this on the 105th meridian, you're getting the reporting for almost all of these incidents through the authorities, through the police. There is the Masonic Fraternal Order of Police. But again, Colorado. And of course, both of these stories have carried into September 11th, the manhunt. I want to take you back in time. After Columbine, prior to 9/11 happening, as in 2001, a story came out that the Columbine killers envisioned hijacking aircraft and crashing them into New York City skyscrapers. Now, Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold were the Columbine attackers. Dylan Klebold just happened to have a September 11th birthday, born in 81. And the Evergreen school shooting that happened yesterday, the day before 9/11, that school is 81 years old. Okay. Also, with regards to all the 44 stuff, don't forget Donald Trump. He was number 45, and he's now number 47, but he's also the 44th person to be the president of the United States because Grover Cleveland had the split term, which messed up the count. So now we've had the 44th person, Trump, and then Biden became the 45th person despite being number 46, elected 46 weeks after the Pope's birthday, like Catholics 46. So the next person who becomes president will actually be the 46th person to be president. Then after that, it'll be the 47th and so on, even though the count will be different. By the way, with regards to Charlie Kirk dying yesterday, you might have seen who was also in the news. Another Charlie Sheen. Charlie Sheen's biggest revelations in his Netflix documentary. That was a headline the day of the Charlie Kirk shooting. King Charles. They don't really call him King Charlie. Do remember, though, you had the No Kings protest this year on Trump's birthday. A lot of people didn't realize they were having the military parade for King Charles that same day. And Charles' birthday is November 14th. I'm talking about the king, the day leaving 47 days left in the year. But yesterday you had this meeting for the first time in 19 months with Prince Harry and King Charles, father and son. And Charlie Kirk, he started Turning Point when he was 18 years old, thus in his 19th year of life. Yesterday, the day of his demise, at least so we're told, it was a date, like I said, with these kill numerology paths, but the one date numerology path that didn't fit in with kill, it was also a date with a 19 numerology path. So the first meeting in 19 months for King Charles on the same day when Charlie Kirk founded Turning Point in 2012, which was the year that he turned 19. He turned 19 October 14th, 2012, a little more than 4 months after establishing Turning Point on June 5th. Okay? And here's something else to think about. Anthony Rizzo, the baseball star, he was in the news yesterday. Remember, he became involved in the Parkland, Florida mass shooting because that's where he went to school. And after that shooting, he spoke out about the need for gun control. Keep in mind, guys, we are very close to the anniversary of the 94 assault weapons ban, which happened September 13th, 94. And something that's really interesting about that date is it can be written 13/9, like 139, just for the record. Gun control equals 139. Gun control 139. If you write out Second Amendment, it equals 256. September 13th is the 256th day of the year. And remember, it says shall not be infringed. The founders' idea with the Second Amendment, it's now laughed at by politicians, the initial idea, but it was that the American people should be able to have weaponry on tier with the government so they could protect themselves from enemies, foreign and domestic, so the playing field could always be even. But now you'll hear politicians say, so what? You think the average American should be able to have a nuclear weapon? And again, I mean, everybody understands from a standpoint like, yeah, that's probably not a good idea. And of course, the founders didn't have a concept of nuclear weapons. But also, where is in the argument, where do we draw the line for people to be able to protect themselves from enemies, foreign and domestic? And are we being ruled over by domestic enemies who pretend to be our friends? I always loved that song from back in the Motown days, Smiling Faces. If you don't know that one, you might want to listen to it and then think about every last politician, maybe even ones you like. Anyway, again, what I've been educating about is how if you learn these numbers, you see through the ritualism that happens, and then how they are always paying tribute to history, and it's like constantly an attack on your subconscious, just like how they have to have the Colorado shooting right after Charlie. And then, I mean, you could even get down to the nitty gritty. They both start with C, right? But we're not even going to go that far. Now, here's something else I want to bring up about Anthony Rizzo, though. So Anthony Rizzo won the 112th World Series. That was just before Trump got elected the first time. That's when the Cubs defeated the Indians. They're still the Cleveland Indians on November 2nd, 1-1-2 in the 112th World Series. Anthony Rizzo wore number 44 for the Cubs. This ritual yesterday was 44 days before Game 1 of the World Series. So number 44, Anthony Rizzo retired from baseball yesterday, 44 days for the upcoming World Series on the day leaving 112 days left in the year. Okay? He was very outspoken about gun control. This was in the headlines before Charlie Kirk got shot in the 44 ritual on the same day. 112. Remember, when Stoneman Douglas happened, the first image they put out was a line of students walking shoulder to shoulder, holding each other's shoulders. Just like the image of the children at Sandy Hook. It was a very similar image. Sandy Hook created an uproar for gun control. Stoneman Douglas created an uproar for gun control. It brought on the March for Our Lives rallies, right? And Anthony Rizzo was speaking about this. Now, what's interesting is Sandy Hook, remember, they reported If you don't know this, again, Sandy Hook equals 112. Adam Lanza was the shooter. His initials were AL. A is the first letter, L is the 12th, 112. His birthday is April 22nd, the 112th day of the year. All of the media, when it happened, reported that Adam Lanza weighed 112 pounds. I mean, you talk about needless information. It sounds unrealistic, too. 6 feet tall, 112 pounds. I mean, you're talking about skeletal. But everybody reported that Adam Lanza weighed 112 pounds. So I was thinking about this more last night, and I said, well, wait a minute. That happened in 2012, the same year that Turning Point USA was established on June 5th. So check this out, you guys. Check this out. June 5th, 2012 to Sandy Hook, December 14th, 2012. Do you see how it's 192 days? Let's look at the gematria of Charlie Kirk, right? Charlie Kirk, who appealed to young people. A lot of the young people that Charlie Kirk appeals to are the people that have grown up in this Sandy Hook era, who've been in elementary school, middle school, high school, through all of this. 192 days after the establishment of Turning Point, the Sandy Hook shooting. Sandy Hook with 112 all over it. Sandy Hook brought back the cries of Columbine. You see how all of this stuff is integrating? Because now Charlie Kirk was killed on the day, leaving 112 days left in the year, as they bring together Anthony Rizzo's retirement, who spoke out after the similar shooting at Stoneman Douglas. Are you following what I'm saying? I hope so. Also, 192, it was huge with the Uvalde shooting and the rituals that followed after. If you go back to my work on Uvalde, there was a lot of speaking out against assault weapons, and Joe Biden promised something was going to be done about them, which was another campaign, or I guess it wasn't a campaign, but just political promise that essentially was not followed through with. And I'd say thankfully so. I do not think that banning the Second Amendment in weapons is ever the right decision. Domestic tyranny is a real thing, and we are suffering from it now, even though people don't see it. There will be a day in the future, if we are disarmed, where people will realize in the last moment why they wish they would have had a protection device. And not to mention, people do protect their own property from other people who have guns, typically criminals. And again, if you have these kind of laws to punish people who are legal weapons owners, do you know how many weapons are available on the black market, if you will, that are easily obtained, that have no serial numbers? Essentially, criminals will be the ones, and that's what people will have to do too if they want to have a protection device. If this kind of stuff happens in the future, they will then have to enter into the realm of being a criminal in the eyes of the government to be an owner of a firearm. So, no, all of this, again, they're trying to manipulate us with our emotions to get us to undermine our rights and liberties that were given to us for a reason. And if you want to hear how important the Second Amendment was at the beginning of this country, go back and read the quotes of founders about how important that Second Amendment is because of how realistic the threat of domestic tyranny is. So, yeah, there's a lot more that I added to this post if you want to come through and read. And again, if you've been watching the news, a lot of talk of all the major political assassinations from MLK on 4/4 to Bobby Kennedy to JFK in 63. Again, this latest ritual was 63 days from the Superior General's birthday, which is the 44th composite number, reminding that JFK was number 35, but also the 44th term president. And remember, after Uvalde, Biden spoke in Texas where JFK was assassinated on JFK's birthday, May 29th. He waited until JFK's birthday to go down there. The shooting was May 24th. JFK was shot on the 177 days from his birthday. Just for the record, Turning Point is 177, like the Jesuit order. And if you're new here, the Jesuits are responsible for the calendar and the language as we know it. They've been in existence since the 16th century, like how they'd tell you the Colorado shooter was a 16-year-old. But yeah, a lot of important information here. Again, from the Turning Point founding date to Charlie's death, 97 days, the 25th prime, both numbers of death in this code, also a number connecting back to Trump. So yeah, I'm moving quick here, but again, a lot of this was covered yesterday. By the way, Charlie Kirk dead 34 days from his upcoming birthday, murder 34. The Mormon word also 34, what Utah is known for. If you don't know about the history of September 11th with the Mormons, there was a massacre where they dressed up as Native Americans or Indians in the language of the time and killed a bunch of other settlers. Netflix did a documentary, or not a documentary, but a show earlier this year about how the Mormons fought for Utah. If you haven't seen that, very well done show. And it comes to start to make sense. Like, yeah, to get your own state associated with the religion, you must have had to fight for it. And they showed that was the tactic, that the Mormons back then, they were very well armed, they were very well financed, and they hid their atrocities by dressing up as Indians or natives, including when they launched attack on the federal government and its military. So, and just for the record, the plural Indians is also 34. But yeah, it was also 34 weeks after Ben Shapiro's birthday, who helped co-found Turning Point USA. And of course, Ben Shapiro and Charlie Kirk are very pro-Israel. And something that didn't get much attention yesterday is that between September 10th and September 11th, Israel struck Qatar, Yemen, Lebanon, Syria, Tunisia, and Gaza. Major military offensive on, a lot of that was also yesterday on the kill date. And just for the record, can you see that Israel equals 64, 44, 28 like kill? 64, 44, 28. That's been a recurring theme this year. Major military action. Military is a big 44 word. And 10-9, like yesterday was 10th day of 9th month. But think about that too. You know, Charlie Kirk, he's the focus. And then what's not getting covered in the U.S. media is our, I guess you can refer to him as an ally. It might not exactly be true, but a country that we send a lot of money to for military support on a major military offensive, escalating tensions in the region, which could be very costly for us. So, yeah, there's a lot here. If you want to go through the post, again, my website is gematriaeffect.news. Feel free to leave a comment here and you can add to it. This did happen in Utah 249 days after the state's birthday, while the country's 249 years old. Charlie Kirk, a lot of the media is bringing up what he said on April 6th after the Tennessee school shooting, which was blamed on somebody who changed their gender. Again, he was being asked about gender-changing shooters when he was shot. But his remarks were, Kirk stated that some gun deaths are an unfortunate but acceptable cost for protecting the Second Amendment. And here this happens to him 888 days after those remarks. In Sumerian Gematria, that's just multiplying the alphabetic order times 6. Donald J. Trump in The Art of the Dealer, 888. It's been a number pattern that's come up with him a lot. Also, if you're not aware of the ancient code of numbers into words, it began with Hebrew and Aramaic and ancient Greek. In ancient Greek, where the New Testament's written in Greek, 888 is the number of Jesus Christ. And of course, Charlie Sheen, big Jesus guy. Mormonism, you know, it's offshoot of Christianity, but Mormons are absolutely about Jesus as well. So something to think about with that. And I did just talk about how it was 192 days later, which is true. If you count the span of days from Turning Point's founding to Sandy Hook, it's also a span of 193 days, the 44th prime. So, yeah, anyway, if I'm moving too fast for you, I apologize. You can always go back. It's just, I'm supposed to finish in 3 minutes, and I still got to rip through a few more things here. That today we now have an image for the guy they're supposedly looking for. And what's on his shirt is it looks like almost like a MAC 10 over a flag. But yeah, just the manhunt begins on the 28 date numerology after Charlie Kirk shot in the throat, where you speak from when he's a man known for using his voice, ritualistic. If you're thinking about it, the symbolism is quite obvious. Charlie Kirk, one of his last social media posts was about how this man who was out on 14 priors, if you read his social media post, Charlie Kirk was mad that this man was out on 14 priors. And you know where he ends up dying? Utah, which equals 14, right? One of his last social media posts corresponds. Charlie Kirk born on the 14th of October, which is also the day in history that the Superior General became the Superior General, the current one, Arturo Sosa. But yeah, just again, you learn this knowledge you see through the routine encoding. This is another story that makes Black people look bad, right? The media has done this for decades, projected Black people as being violent, dangerous, sexually aggressive, distributors of drugs, etc. There's so many stories like this. And what's crazy is when you learn this code, you'll see in these stories again and again, these exact same numbers are coded into the names. 59 and 76, like slave, Negro, Rasta blues. Again, Black History Month ends on the 59th day of the year. The feds recognize Black History Month in 76. Barack Obama equals 76. His Secret Service name Renegade equals 59. When he put out his book, A Promised Land, on November 17th, the day leaving 44 days left in the year, his book, A Promised Land, equals 59 and 76, and on and on and on. Long list of this, but then also the killer's 34 years old, right? One of Charlie Sheen's last posts was about this incident, and then only for him to get killed, so we're told 34 days from his birthday. Murder in Ukraine equals 34. So does black. You know, a black man supposedly killed a Ukrainian woman as a 34-year-old. 34-year-old suspect has been heard speaking since the stabbing, saying that something was put into his head to make him do this. Sounds like MK Ultra, right? The woman who was killed, her name equals 79, like Ukrainian murder. Charlie Kirk's death is synced with Trump's 79th birthday. At the beginning of the Ukraine war, go back and look up the headlines. At the beginning of it, inflation was going up fast, and they said inflation was up to 7.9% because of the war escalation with Ukraine. That was all over the news as the news broke. And I just showed you all the time. I said, come on, you guys, 7.9% due to the war escalation with Ukraine. This is news by the numbers. That was back in 2022. Remember when Joe Biden addressed the nation at 2:22 Eastern time on February 22nd, 2022, 2 days before the war officially began? That was the same day that Russia went inside Ukraine's border. 2 days later, the anniversary of the Catholic Church and the Jesuits installing the calendar, the war officially began. Also, just the woman's name also has the 56 and 79, like Society of Jesus. That's the Jesuits. Go see my work on the Minnesota shooting for where those numbers came up. Go see my work on the shooting on December 4th, 2012, where those numbers came up, and a million other things. What happened with the whole pandemic on the 79th day, Anthony Fauci being 79 years old, whose name equals 56. Go back at this same pattern over and over. Also, again, just one more time, also in the news yesterday, Elon Musk passed by Larry Ellison of Oracle. Notice that Elon Musk, 54 years old, Larry Ellison, co-founder of Oracle 54. That was 74 days after Musk's birthday when Larry Ellison and Larry are 74. And this was a year to the day of Larry Ellison doing the press conference for Oracle. Go back and listen to Larry Ellison's September press conference for Oracle, where he talked about where AI has gotten to, and he sees a future utopia where all Americans are under surveillance at all times, where everyone is required to wear a camera, and the AI will be able to track every last American, their behavior, what they're up to make sure that everyone is on their best behavior, and we live in a much safer America. And I want you to think about that, especially in light of this being the news the day of what happened to Charlie Kirk, right? Because you're hearing all these calls for safety. We need to undermine rights and liberties. We need the surveillance state, some people would say. We need this so we can be safe. Benjamin Franklin must be, doing somersaults in his grave, because he said those who sacrifice liberty for safety deserve neither. And you need to remember, there will be an authority that would be in control of this surveillance system, and they might not have to wear the cameras themselves, and they might be able to get away with the greatest crimes of all time, while any of us who would ever try to resist or fight back would be totally finished before we could even start, because we are under the watchful eye of Big Brother with every last breath we take. And don't forget how for this nation, don't forget on July 4th, you guys, we had Sting of The Police singing his song, Every Breath You Take. The one where the chorus is, every breath you take, every step you take, I'll be watching you. That was on 7/4, right? Holiday equals 74, like Independence Day. Poor little town in Texas was getting washed away after getting the emergency alert at 1:14 a.m., the 74th minute of the day. And that town's named after James Kerr, again, who fought in the Texas Revolution, which ended on Rome's birthday, April 21st, 74 days before July 4th. And again, his birthday was the 24th of September, 24/9, as his town gets washed away on the 249th birthday of the nation. Lyndon Johnson said in the future there'll be a weather satellite to control the weather. Funny enough, weather satellite. Here, weather satellite. Let's just spell it out. How we struggle with satellite, but let me get it right. Yeah, weather satellite. There it is, 249. On the 249th birthday of the U.S. In Lyndon Johnson's home state, the man who said who controls the weather controls the world back in the 60s. That just happened to happen. Okay. Yeah, we talked about the Anthony Rizzo thing where it fit in. Again, Nas Reed's sister shot and killed, number 11, 11 days after his birthday, shot by Shaquille Green when he went to LSU, like Shaquille O'Neal, and him and Shaq are both from New Jersey. And the same day that his sister was killed in an 11 ritual, the coach at LSU became 31 and 11. 31's the 11th prime. Charlie Kirk, of course, just killed at 31. You know, a lot of Charlie Kirk headlines. I saw this phrasing, "shot dead." It's probably not an accident, you guys. Shot dead, 31. R.I.P. That's assuming that he really died, you guys. He was loaded into an SUV, not an ambulance. And you might have seen, I've seen the footage now since I did the video yesterday. There's a giant pump out of his shirt. If you've seen the clear footage, there's a clear shot out there. There's a giant pump out of his shirt. Boom. And then his head snaps back, and then the blood gushes out the neck in that exact sequence. Boom, boom, boom. And, you know, there's a lot that could be going on there, but I don't know how the shot would make his shirt jump out forward. Like I said yesterday, you guys, political theater is a real thing. And, you know, Charlie Kirk, his useful purpose, I mean, the guy made tens of millions. He could be off to, like I said, a little face-off, little surgery. I don't know. If you haven't seen that footage, I encourage you to look it up, because what is this right here that jumps way out before this and this? We do live in the age of Hollywood. We live in the age of AI. By the way, if you've seen the people who've done the analysis of also the shooting, if you watch, he has a ring on his finger, and in the snap back, somehow the ring goes from his ring finger down to his pinky. So that's another weird thing with the Charlie Kirk footage, if you're really paying attention. Anyway, come back to this. Again, Shaquille Green is the killer. When Nas Reed has these parallels to Shaquille O'Neal, who's from New Jersey like him and went to LSU. Shaquille Green is the killer of Nas Reed's sister, Shaquille. And the name just happens to equal 225, which is the Baton Rouge area code where LSU is. And again, it's this Jesuit order thing everywhere. Because again, like I'm telling you guys, like I've written books about and been explaining since forever. The Jesuits run the show. Shaquille Green has all this overlap with Jesuit order. Charlie Sheen's thing, prove me, or I keep calling Charlie Sheen. Charlie Kirk, prove me wrong, 54, 153, 72, like Jesuit order. All of this. Yeah, and again, the woman who was killed is 53, like Shaquille O'Neal himself is 53 right now. Big football number in the NFL, 53-man roster, 53 in a 30-yard wide field. The shape of the football in sacred geometries, the Vesica Pisces. The S should be before the I. That's a typo, but it's the same value. Vesica Pisces, 53. Yeah, RIP to her. Yesterday on the kill date, before Charlie Sheen was dead, Israel had attacked a civilian high-rise. And again, you know, this post was 6:31 a.m., you know, hours before Charlie story came out. But again, it's just tragic stuff on the kill date. Poland shoots down, you know, Russian drone, escalating the war, getting NATO more involved. You guys know what NATO's establishment date is, right? Big military organization that the U.S. founded, 4-4. This military order just happened to be found 4-4 in Washington in 49. Check it out, you guys. Military 44, right? Anniversary of MLK being killed. And for everybody who doesn't know about MLK's death, a year to the day of MLK's assassination, April 4th, 1967, he gave a speech called Beyond Vietnam, A Time to Break Silence. A year to the day later, April 4th, 68, assassinated. And military 44, like shooting, like execution, like kill. Memphis, where he was killed, you know, fateful place. Memphis got the 83, 38, and 34, like murder. His brother died in a big 38 ritual. RIP to him as well. But, yeah, MLK was blacklisted in the media the year leading up to his death. Lyndon Johnson said he was no longer a friend of the White House. He'd never be over for dinner. Nobody heard about MLK the last year of his life until he was shot for speaking out against the U.S. military. And MLK was killed in a leap year, April 4th, 68, which was the 95th day of the year. He wasn't born Martin Luther. He assumed that name after the Protestant Reformation leader, Martin Luther, who wrote the 95 Theses. Then MLK, Martin Luther King Jr., is killed on the 95th day of the year. The Jesuits were created to counter Martin Luther and the 95 Theses and recognized by the Roman Catholic Church on September 27th, the day leaving 95 days left in the year. We're coming up on that anniversary date later this month. And just about Charlie Kirk being killed in Utah, the home of the Latter-day Saints, a.k.a. Mormons, the Mormon Church quietly opened a massive temple next to the Vatican a handful of years back. Even a lot of people in the church are not aware of that. If you didn't know that, look into it because it is very interesting and it shows there's a relationship there between the Vatican and the LDS. A big temple right next to the Vatican, quietly opened. Didn't even want to know a lot of its own congregation to know what's it really all about. So anyway, God, it's already that. Oh my God. All right, you guys, I'm taking too long. I got to leave it there. Again, if you want to come to my website, it's gematriaeffect.news. If you want to learn more about this, my ebooks are instant downloads. The Green Book's my first book. Finished writing that in 2017. Actually, I added in a little bit after Stoneman Douglas, so there's a little update. And then Number Games, I finished writing at the end of July 2020. And then Beirut blew up on Barack's birthday, reminding us of the Beirut barracks bombing. So I added a little bit more after that, but that was on August 4th, 2020. But these books have so much information. They will explain to you why the cabal uses this knowledge, how it's used, how important it is, how if you learn this, you can see through the ritualism and not let your energy be manipulated. That's really what it's about, not being manipulated by the manipulators. This ancient knowledge like Kabbalah, like Gematria, like Hermeticism. Hermeticism, you've heard of the 7 Hermetic principles. In Hermeticism, they teach you that everything has a vibration and every vibration has a manipulative power. Every color, every shape, every sound carries a vibration. And the people who are the masters and understand those vibrations, they know how to use them to move people. You think about when you're in the store and music's playing, they know that that makes you buy more. Again, just simple things like this. Certain colors make you trust more, make you more into it. There are people that understand this knowledge better than others. Another Hermetic principle is you're either the person who's essentially doing the manipulating or you are the person being manipulated. And to not be manipulated, you have to have knowledge and understanding. That is why they say knowledge is power. It has limitless utility. And it's a shame that more people aren't helping spread this knowledge because you can use it every single day to see through the ritualism that's going on. And you can connect the dots and understand history better as well as the present. And you can also see who's actually controlling the show. So I'm going to leave it there for now. Thank you again to everyone who supports the work. Shout out to Texas Jules. Thank you to Jehovah Thickness, who said, I'm not a coder, but had an app idea. Enter a theme, kill dates, popes, a list of figures, and compare the figures, numbers, dates from birthday and flag matches. Would this be useful and what features matter most? I'd love to talk about that more when I have more time. Please call in. Thank you for your donation. If anybody has these kind of skills and ideas, the more people using their mind and the creativity to get the knowledge out there to make it more useful, the better. So yeah, I'm sorry I'm in a rush right now, but please call into the next live stream where I open up the phone line. Shout out to Generous Dale, who's always chipping in 5 and sometimes more. Thank you so much, Dale, for all your generosity. Open up always with the generosity, too. Evergreen High School suspect, Desmond Hawley. Are you kidding me? That's what I mean, you guys. It's just the same thing over and over. You know, SH, for example. SH, here, just to make a long story short. SH, that school was opened in 1956, and the shooting happened in 2012, 56 years later. And the shooter's full name, Adam Peter Lanza, 56. And there's that 79 again. And remember, in 2021, when this story came out, that a first responder to SH died from Cooties 19, they had to show him parked next to license plate number 56. Patrick Dragon, SH happened in the year of the dragon. I guess I didn't put the name of the virus up. Oh, there it is. Yeah, trust me, everything about the virus is 56. That's why Gavin Newsom said 56% of you will get it in 8 weeks, which is 56 days. Not to mention Gavin Newsom, who's Jesuit educated, his name equals 56. Trump declared the state of emergency on Friday, March 13, 2020, a date with 56 numerology, 56 years after his Jesuit education began at Fordham, and on and on and on. But yeah, again, you guys, just the same stuff over and over. Desmond Hawley, go figure. Okay. Charlie Kirk founded Turning Point on the 5th day of the 6th month, the anniversary of Ronald Reagan's death, right? Okay. All right. Yeah, very good. Very good. Disambiguation said, nice to see the views and likes up yesterday. If you're new here, sticker. Yeah, I wish we could get back to good views. I do believe that was the most viewed video on this channel. As sad as that is to say, I mean, 2018, I had a ton of videos up between a 500,000 and 1 million views in a channel that was only up for about 8 months before they deleted it. This channel's been up for 3 years, and I think that was the first time we hit 30,000 views. So, but yeah, thank you to everyone who did help that happen. These days it's hard for me to even get 5,000 views. So I do appreciate the upsurge and the new subscribers. And again, I am here every day. So if you're new to this, you'll learn a lot paying attention. Some people tend to burn out on this knowledge. Don't let that be you. This knowledge, man, you want to master this knowledge. You want to get to at least as good as I am, and you will in due time, as redundant as everything is. Matt with the big 50. Thank you, Matt. He said his tour was called the American Comeback Tour. Charlie Cook was born in Illinois and was avid Bears fan. And of course, Bears lost due to a comeback on 9/8. That's interesting. And like I said, the founder of Mormonism, Joseph Smith, died in 1844, being shot in Illinois. Charlie Kirk saw him down. So, all right, guys, I'm late from where I'm supposed to be. Thank you again, everyone who hits the like and the share. Thank you for your generosity. And I'll be back to break down whatever it is when they put out that they've captured the shooter. Yeah, I'll be back. It's just hard being, having the little one. Time is scarce, but I will be back when that news breaks for an update. Have a great rest of your day. And until next time, Truth Seeker. Thank you for becoming a member, Rod. Appreciate that. Thank you. Until next time, everybody.